Okay, good afternoon. So this is the last homework which is left, and then from next lesson we continue to the next chapter. So let us solve this problem. Uh, let us read it first. This is very similar to the problem that I gave you in the exam. So consider the following number: 8 to the power of 2/3 plus 9 to the power of 3/2 plus 13 to power 0 times 4 to the power of minus 1/2. The exact value of this number is equal. We are supposed to write it here. Okay, so let us solve the problem here. So question number 1, 8 to power 2/3 plus 9 to power 3/2 plus 13 to power 0. Everything is supposed to be multiplied by 4 to the power of minus 1/2. Of course, you can use this symbol that is called the third sign, or in general the nth root. But might be the best way to solve these kinds of problems is just use the exponent and power rules, yes? The power rule that is needed here is a to power m to the n. We learn that it becomes a to power m times n. Okay, so in that case, let us do them case by case. And if it is in the exam, you should do it case by case, because even if the other ones are wrong, one of them is correct, you will still get some points. When it comes to exam, you have to be careful about this. So 8 to the power of 2/3. Okay, I hope that everyone knows that 8 can be written as 2 to the power of 3 and then to the power of 2/3. So that rule applies. 2 is playing a role of A, 3 is playing the role of m, and 2/3 is playing the role of that n. So what I can do, I can write 2 and then I multiply 3 by 2/3. Okay, but you know that this 3 and that 3 are cancelled and there is only 2 left, and the 2 is here, so it becomes 2 to power 2, but that's extremely simple. The answer is 4. So the first one is 4. It was very similar to the problem in the exam, yes? So 9 to the power of 3/2, the same strategy. What should I do? 9 can be written as 3 to the power of 2 and then to the power of 3/2. Exactly according to the same rule, I just multiply the exponents. But when I multiply 2 times 3/2, these two are cancelled, 3 is left. So what happens? It becomes 3 to the 3. But 3 to the 3 is very simple, which is 3 times 3 times 3.
27.
So it's become 27. And this you need to know by heart, that any number to power 0, we discussed about that. It is just 1. And there is only one problem to be solved here, and that is 4 to power minus 1/2. And of course, again, I can use the same rule. I can write 2 to power 2 to the power of minus 1/2. Then I multiply this is the same rule I am still applying. So it becomes 2 times minus 1/2. But 2 times minus 1/2 is just minus 1. But then I can use the negative power rule as well. So what happens? It becomes 1 over 2. Okay, so everything is in order now. So the question mark, if I call it the question mark now becomes equal to, instead of the first one, instead of this first one, I put 4. Instead of the second one, I put 27. Instead of the third one, I put 1. And everything should be multiplied by the last one. But the answer to the last one is just 1/2. And then you know that pair of brackets prioritize this operation. So 4 plus 27, 31. 31 plus 1, 32. And then 32 multiplied by 1/2 is 16. So the correct answer to this problem, which was similar to it, that's why I'm saying please do the homeworks. If you do the homeworks, then you will not face any problems with coming exams. Okay, anyway, let us go to the next problem. Consider the following number here: the third root of minus 1000, the second root of the third root of 64, square root of 13 to power 2 minus 5 to power 2. Again, we want to find the exact value here. Okay, 1. Okay, again, I will do it piece by piece. Yes, the first thing that you might, I want you to remember, of course, it is also in the formula sheet, is this famous formula. The nth root of any number can be viewed as a to power 1 over n. So that is a formula that you need to know. Of course, it is also in the formula sheet. Okay? And by the way, you don't have to if you can do it in your head. For example, do you remember when I was teaching you what is the meaning of this symbol, the nth root of a? It is asking you about a number whose nth power is a. So, this is asking you about a number whose third power is minus 1,000. If you can do it in your head, of course, in this case, I would say it is easy. That number is minus 10. Because minus 10 times minus 10 times minus 10 is really minus 1,000. So if you just immediately write minus 10, that's okay. But if you don't, you can just do using that formula. So what do you do if I want to do everything step by step? So what I will do, I will write it as minus 1,000 to the power of 1 over 3. But minus 1,000 can be written as minus 10 to the power of 1 over 3. But because this is odd, this minus sign goes out, and, oh sorry, I forgot to put the 3 there. So this is minus 3 to the power, so instead of 1,000, I put 10 to power 3, and then I have a minus sign there, it becomes this one. Because this is odd, I can pull the minus sign out, and then I can write 10 to the power of 3 to the power of 1/3. But exactly according to the previous rule, I have to multiply these two exponents, yes? And then 3 times this is just 1. I have a negative sign, 10 to power 1, but no one writes 10 to power 1 because people write simply minus 10. But as I told you, if you can just think a little bit, it might be even faster, and that's acceptable. Yes? For example, let us do this again in 2 different ways. If you want to calculate the second root of the third root of 64, which one should I do first? The second root or the third root? The second root is acting on this. So in order to be able to do the second root, first I need to know what this number is. Again, if you are having a good memory about numbers, this is not hard. It is asking you, can you give me a number whose third power is 64? It means that can you give, no, it's not 2, because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. I want a number so that when it is multiplied by itself, 3 times it becomes 64. Yes? 4. So the answer is 4. Okay? If I can do it immediately, it becomes 4. Then, so let us do it in 2 different ways. One fast way, which is acceptable. I will continue. For the time being, I copy and paste this one, and I ask myself, what is this number? And then you told me 4. Okay, then it's extremely simple to answer this one. If you could answer this one, definitely you can answer this one too, which is 2. This is the best way of doing it, if you have these numbers in your head. Otherwise, you should do it in a different way. How? So, for example, let me do it in a different way. The second root of the third root of 64. Now I want to use this formula. Yes? Nth root, let me write it in this way. The nth, I can write it here. The nth root of a box is what? Whatever inside the box doesn't matter. So what happens? This becomes equal to the box equals to the power of 1 over. Now I give the role of box to this. So what can I write? This number is not written. By convention it is 2. So this becomes the box.
Third root of.
No, not third root. So don't look inside. If you don't look inside, you see a square root of a box. I told you that this means it is 2. So I have to write box to power 1 half. Yes? But what is box? Box itself is the third power of 64. This is the way you have to think. Yes? If you can do it like this, it is even better. Otherwise, you have to do it step by step. But now, I give the roll of box to this guy. And I use the same formula, which becomes 64 to power 1 over 3. And then I have a pair of brackets, and I have 1 over 2. But again, according to this rule of powers, what can I write? I can write 64 to the power of 1/3 multiplied 1/2. Yes? But what is this number? 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 2 is 6. So the answer is 64 to power 1 over 6. If you have it in your memory, it's better. Otherwise, you have to factorize it. So I am talking about worst case scenario that you don't remember any one of these. If you remember, it's very fast. If you don't remember, still you can do it. You factorize it. 2, 32, 2, 16, 2, 8, 2, 4. I'm dividing it by 2 as much as I can. And then you know that eventually you will end up with 1. And then you count them. So 64 is nothing except 2 times 2 itself 6 times. So if you don't remember, you can do this. And then put it back here. So this becomes 2 to power 6 to the power of 1 over 6. And then again, according to the same rule. So you see I am using this rule over and over again. So this becomes 2, 6 times 1 over 6. But 6 and 6 are simplified, 2 to power 1, and 2 to power 1 is 2. So it takes a very longer time, but still you get this answer correctly. I want you to experience a little bit more so that you can do things fast. So let us not get confused. The answer to this part is here. The answer to the second part in any way that you like, it is this one. And now my duty is to calculate this one. A common mistake in calculating this one is people take a square root sign. So this is a common mistake. If you think that you might make this mistake, write it and cross it over. People say that, okay, this is square root, we'll cancel this one. Some of you might write this. If you think this is correct, please write it down and cross it over so that you don't fall into that trap. So how should I do that? The priority of operations are important. You hear, if I want to take a square root, I need to know this number. If I don't know this number, how can I know it's a square root? So in order to know this number, I have some operations involved. Subtraction and power. If you remember the very old lesson, which one has the priority? Power. So it means that the square root sign should wait. It cannot apply now. Okay? But the priority is with this operation and that operation. Okay? So it means that I have to multiply 13 by 13. You don't have to write it. This is the way you have to think. And then you have to multiply 5 by 5 and then subtract. Okay? So 13 by 13, I hope that this is not hard for you to understand. Of course, you can use calculator, it's the homework. Okay, it is 169. And then 5 times 5 is 25, and then you subtract them. 144, the square root of 144, yes, that is 12. Let us say that the calculator is not allowed and you don't remember square root of 144 is 12. What do? You have to do this long way. So you have to factorize 144, which is 2, and then it becomes 72. You divide by 2, 36. You divide by 2, 18. You divide by 2, 9. But then you have to divide by 3, 3. And then you divide by 3. Finally, you get your 1. And then 144 is 1, 2, 3, 4 2s and 2 3s. Now, a square root of 144 is a square root of this number. You see, I told that this is not working for subtraction, but this is working for multiplication. For multiplication, you can take them separately. Okay? Let me not do it, okay? So you can do it like this. 2 to the power of 4, 3 to the power of 2 to the power of 1/2. But then, because of this rule and another rule, do you remember there was another rule as well? That if I have a times b to power n, I can raise this one to power n, I can raise this one to power n and multiply them. This rule works if it is multiplication. Many of you in the exam, do you remember? You made a mistake for subtraction. You used this formula for subtraction as well, which was not correct. This formula is valid for multiplication and division, not for addition and subtraction. Okay, so let me continue here. So this means that 2 to power 4, so I continue here. So it becomes 2 to power 4 to power 1/2 multiplied by 3 to power 2 to power 1/2. And then I multiply them. So it becomes, you can do it in your head. 4 times half becomes 2. 2 times half becomes 1. 2 to power 2 is 4 times 3, which is 12. So of course, if you don't remember things, you can still do them, but it becomes longer. Okay, so for these normal numbers, I recommend you to have them in your memory. Yes? Yes, why not? But I would prefer, if you want to do it in the normal paper, because if you miss in the middle, I still can give you some points. Okay, so let us glue everything together, and if you have questions, I will answer them. So do you remember, that is my question mark now. This is question number 2. I have to glue them together. So the first one is how much? So the question mark is minus 10. And the second one we calculated in 2 different ways. Both of them gave us the same number. And then finally, the last one is how much? Is 12. And this is extremely simple. 14 minus 10 is 4. So the answer to this problem is simply 4. Any questions? Good. So let us go now to the next problem. This was also very similar to the exam problem there, yes? And many of you missed this one. That's what I'm saying. If you do the homeworks, you don't know how to solve them, come and ask questions, you will learn. Of course, I already told you one of the examples when I was teaching was this type of example. Consider this following equation. The sum of the roots of this equation is equal to what? Okay? I saw a miscalculation. It is not wrong. Many of you did it correctly, but then you got something that you couldn't continue. And that is clear, because that way will be Ma1c lesson. So let me write, yes. Yes. We write this problem here. It is 2 times 3 minus 2x to the power of 2 minus 45 equals to 50. I saw some of you write these 2 times and multiply them together. It's not wrong. That's very good that you didn't do it wrong, because some of you did it wrong. How? Again, I told you that this formula is valid if this is multiplication or division. Some people wrote 9 minus 4x squared. They use this formula for subtraction. That is wrong. But some of you realize that if I want to raise it to power 2, they wrote it correctly like this. That is correct. But the problem is that it becomes so hard, then you cannot solve it if you write it in that way. Yes? So now, if you do it in that way, it is not wrong. So it becomes 3 times 3, 9, 3 times minus 2x. And then this one also minus 6x, and then this one plus 4x squared. You see, it is not wrong. The people who did it in that way, I would say that is very good. At least they understood that this is the correct way of doing it. But then you have to multiply this by 2, subtract 45. It becomes an equation which is completely correct, but this is not the way that we have learned to solve it. And we will learn it in Ma1c. So this is why, if you did it in that way, then of course I will give you some points, because at least you did it in the correct way. But This is not the main way of solving the problem. You see, if I want to solve this problem, what do I do? First, I move minus 45 to the other side. So it becomes 2 times 3 minus 2x squared equals to how much? 45 is moved to the other side, it becomes positive. And then there is a 5 there, it becomes 50. Okay, what is the next step now?
Divide.
Yes, we cannot move because 2 is multiplied. I have to get rid of 2, so I have to divide. If I divide this by 2, this 2 is gone. And then this divided by 2 is 25. Again, some of you up to here did it correctly, but then they said that, okay, this to power 2 is 25, so this number is 5. You already need to understand that this is not completely correct. Why? Because in the problem I am asking about sum of the roots. If there is one root, I cannot ask you about sum of the roots. When I say sum of the roots, it means that there are more than one root. That is actually a guide for you, that if you just say 5, it is not correct. But we had it in the lesson. What are those numbers? 3 minus 2x has 2 different possibilities, yes? Either 5, of course 5 is correct, but there is another option. What is that? Minus 5. So 3 minus 2x can be either 5 or minus 5. If that is 5, then this is a very simple problem. I move 3 to the other side, so it is minus 2x equals to what? 5 minus 3 is 2. I divide everything by minus 2 because my goal is to isolate my unknown, so it becomes minus 1. This is one root. I will do the same thing here. I move 3 to the other side, so it becomes minus 2x equals to what? Minus 5 is already there. Move 3 in your head to the other side. Minus 5 minus 3 is minus 8. No, minus 5 minus 3. And then I want to isolate x, so I divide by minus 2. So it becomes positive 4. So I have 2 roots. But what is the question mark? The question mark is the sum of the roots. It means minus 1 on the one hand and 4 on the other hand. So the answer is 3. So that is the answer that you have to provide for this problem. Any questions? Okay, now let us go to this one. So this was, I haven't given any question of this level of difficulty in the exam, but one question in the exam was comparable to this one. So consider the following equation: x to the power of 5 over 2 plus 3 copies of x to power 5 over 2. I don't know, even though we talked about these things a lot, especially in this exam, I was shocked. Many of you actually did it wrong. The positive root of this equation is equal to what? We want to find the positive root of this equation. Okay, so let me clean the board and then I will write it down. Okay, now let us solve this one. Still, I think some of you have problems here. You see, you did very weird thing. For example, I don't remember exactly the one in the exam, but the one in the exam was very similar to this one. Many people wrote x to power 16. Some of you wrote x to power 64, and very strange, weird things. But what is x to power 8 plus x to power 8? 2x to power 8. I don't know why you make this mistake. There is nothing. You cannot say, I don't remember. I have one of these pens. You give me another of the same pen. How many pens I have? 2. So can I say, I forget this, sorry, I forgot this? Okay, so you have 8, x to power 8. Another person gives you another. Addition means you give me another one. So what do I have now? I cannot have a eraser. Yes, I will have 2 pens. So it becomes, this is not correct, this is not correct, and then this becomes only what? Okay, but so if you have done this problem before the exam, of course you had experience, hopefully close to exam. So I have one box, whatever this is the same thing This is the same thing. I have one of them, you give me one more, your friend gives me one more of the same thing. How many things I have of the same type? 3. So that is at least the first step shouldn't be hard for you. So 3x to the power of 5 over 2, and then square root of x equals to 75. Okay? At least I expect you to, in matter of seconds, to write this. Might be you get stuck at this level. I didn't expect you to get stuck from here to here. Okay? But now the question is that, what should I do? You see, I have a power here with fraction. I have a square root. If I want to work in this problem, it is better to make them of the same type so that I can use the roots. How can I do that? So do you remember I just told you the formula? The nth root of a box is what? Is box to power 1 over n. If n is 2, people don't write it, just leave it empty, but they mean it is 2. So a square root of a box is what? Box to power 1/2. So what I will do, I will write it here. I copy and paste the numerator, but in the denominator what I can do? X to power 1/2. Again, the right hand side I copy and paste. So which rule of power? By the way, you have the formula sheet in front of you, even though I really don't recommend you just look at the formula sheet every time. These rules are so simple, you have to have them in mind. Which formula is suitable for this part? Which kind of cancellation? A to power m divided by a to power n. I have two powers with the same basis and I want to divide them. Okay, if you remember better, if you don't, the formula sheet is in front of you. So you have to copy and paste the base, write this number on top minus this number. This is the rule. Okay, so 3 is just 3. I am using this rule. Is it applicable? Yes. I have two powers. The base is x, the base is x, so the bases are the same. So I write the same base. And I write 5 over 2, which is the number on top, minus 1 over 2, which is the number below. And again, I copy and paste the right-hand side for the time being. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. But 5 over 2 minus 1 over 2 is so simple. What is that? It's 4 over 2. But 4 over 2 is also a better name, which is 2. So this means that this is 3x squared is 75.
Is it 5?
What? 5 over 2 minus 1 over 2 is 5 minus 1. Denominators are the same, so it becomes 4 over 2. It becomes 2. So instead of this, I wrote 2. But how can I continue? This is E-level question in the book, yes?
Divide by 3.
Yes?
You find this.
You divide by
Divide
3.
by 3 on both sides.
Yes? So you divide by 3 on both sides, which becomes
Square root of the answer.
x squared is 25. X becomes what?
5.
Not 5 only. If you have even, it becomes plus or minus a square root of 25, but the square root of 25 is what?
Plus minus 5.
Plus minus 5. Of course, minus 5 is not acceptable here. Why? Because here I cannot put negative numbers. Negative numbers under square root signs does not make sense. So it means that you cannot say this equation has two solutions. We will see later, sometimes you do everything right, but a solution comes in which is indeed not a solution. That is called a false solution. We will not discuss about that too much. We will discuss about it in Ma1c. But minus 5 is not acceptable. So I knew that this is going to happen. I didn't want to make you confused, so I myself wrote the word positive here so that you don't get confused, because we haven't studied that part very systematically yet. So there is only one positive root for this equation, and there is only one root for this equation. Don't say that this equation has two roots, even though I got two. One of them we will learn later is called the false root. So what is the answer that I have to provide there? Is just 5. So we type 5 here and then we're done. Okay, so now let us go to the next problem. The next problem is also similar to what we discussed. It's inequalities. Consider the following inequality. The solution of this inequality is which one of them? So you have to solve and choose one of these options. And this is inequality with fractions. Many of you, I remember many of us, we talked about these kinds of equations and inequalities a lot, but many of you didn't do it correctly during the exam. Okay, so you have to take lessons from your mistakes. Okay, so let me write it down. If I want to solve this inequality, I have to find LCD between all denominators. 6, 4, 12, 3, and 2, which is 12. 12 is the smallest number, which is divisible by all denominators simultaneously. This you have to write. You have to show me that you are multiplying both sides by this LCD. Yes, this is important to write it down in an exam. So this becomes 12 multiplied by x over 3 plus 1/2. Okay? So now you know what you're supposed to do. This 12 should be multiplied here, should be multiplied here, and should be multiplied there. Okay? Okay, so let me write it because I saw many of you made the mistake. So let me be patient and write it. I multiply 12 here. I multiply 12 here. I multiply 12 here. Here I also do the same thing, yes? I multiply this 12 here, and here I kept this sign, greater than, yes? I multiply 12 there. I multiply 12 there as well. Okay, so what happens? Now, before multiplication, of course it is not wrong to multiply 12 by 5, but that is not the whole point. The whole point of multiplying by LCD is what? Cancel the denominators. So if you want to multiply it here, you have not only didn't cancel that, but you are making your problem even harder. Instead of working with number 5, now you have to work with number 16. Okay? That's not an ideal scenario. So I will simplify this with that. How many times? 2 times. And then I multiply 2 by 5, which is 10. Of course, 10 is bigger than 5, but the advantage of doing it is that I don't need to work with fractions. Fractions are harder to work than 10. And then the same story here. 4, and this becomes 3 times. So it becomes 3 times 1 is 3. And here even everything is gone. So it is just minus 7x. On the right hand side, 12 by 3, 4. And then this one by that one, 6. So it becomes 4x plus 6. I simplify it one step. 10x minus 7x is 3x plus 3. On the right hand side, I have 4x plus 6. I move 4x to the left. I keep this sign. I keep 6 there. I move 3 to the other side. Yes? But 3x minus 4x is minus x greater than 3. This is not the solution because still x is not completely isolated. There is an extra minus sign here. So what is this minus x? You need to know. If someone tells you minus x, they mean minus 1 times x. So what I have to do, I have to divide by minus 1. So I divide this by minus 1. I divide this by minus 1, but because I am dividing inequality by a negative number, I have to flip the sign. And then minus x divided by minus 1 is x, and this is less than minus 3. So x is less than minus 3 is the correct answer. So you have to choose this one. Okay? So don't be careful because they are very similar. Make sure that in the real test you don't mess them up. Any questions? Okay. And now finally we go to the last one, which is a little bit harder than it is not algebraically very hard, but might be conceptually you need to understand what is happening. The number of integers x that satisfy this double inequality is equal to what? So I am not asking about the solution of this. I am asking you how many. The number means how many. How many integers x will satisfy this double inequality? Okay? So let me clean the board and write it here. You remember I told you that when you see something like this, I don't know, for example, something like this, you can read x is between a and b. But this is a shorthand notation because mathematicians are usually a little bit lazy. Instead of writing a is less than x and x is less than b, they have this convention that they write all these things compactly in this form. But whenever you want to solve it, you have to solve it using that I have two inequalities to consider. Yes? So let me write this on the board. So the inequality that we have is what? Is 5 minus 2x less than or equal to 3x minus 20 itself should be less than x plus 2. So this is my goal. So this is not one problem. This is two inequalities in one problem. Okay, so you have to do them separately. Okay, so let us say that this means what? If you are not lazy, it means what? It means two inequalities. One of them is this one less than or equal to that? And what? This one itself is less than x plus 2. So by looking at this in the question, you have to understand that I have to solve two inequalities, one and that. Okay, so let us do them step by step. But then the final conclusion is the new twist to the problem. I want to ask your opinion about it. So I concentrate on this one. So if you don't mind, let me call this one inequality A. Let me call this one inequality B. I want to solve inequality A for you here. This is an E-level question. Only that one. Is less than or equal to what? 3x minus 20. So I keep minus 2x on the left. I move 3x to the left. It becomes negative. This one I keep. Minus 20 I keep. I move 5 to the other side. It becomes minus 5. And then this one and that one is minus 5x. Less than or equal to. This becomes minus 25. Then you know I have to isolate. So I divide by minus 5. Be careful again. You have to flip the sign. Yes? Are you following or not? Okay. But then this minus 5 and minus 5 are gone. This minus 25 divided by minus 5 is 5. So keep it. Yes? Okay, so let us have the concentration. So this is one part of the problem. And again, I am telling you, in the exam, if you just can solve that one, do that, because it will bring you points. But then the next one is also very simple. That's also an E-level question. So how should I do that then? The same method, but probably with different numbers. That's not a big deal. The last part, the people who have a better understanding then can solve the problem. But still, by that stage, you have already got the majority of points. Okay, so I will start from here. So 3x minus 20 is less than x plus 2. You know what to do again. So I keep 3x, I move x to the left. I keep inequality, I keep 2, I move 20 to the right. This becomes 2x less than. And then this is even simpler. I just divide by 2. So there is no twist to the problem. Okay? But now I want to ask your opinion. What is between this one and that one? It is and. Because I solved that one, I got this. I didn't care about the and momentarily. I solved that one and I got this. But then I have to glue them together. So this means my problem is A and B. So it means that the answer is x greater than or equal to 5 and x is less than 11. Okay, now if you are lazy, can you combine these together? Yes, because it tells you that on the one hand, x should be above 5. On the other hand, it should be smaller than 11. So this means x is between 5 and 11. So, and whenever you have between, remember this symbol. But this one has equality on it. So I put equality. And then I have 5 and then 11. Even if you don't write this, this doesn't matter. This is completely correct. But I want you to learn to write it more compactly. So if I ask you to solve this inequality, this is the answer. But let us go back to the problem. The problem is not exactly asking you to solve inequality. It is asking you the number of integers that is in this inequality, that satisfy this inequality. The number means how many integers are there. Integers means here tall, yes? So I want to count the number of integers in this interval. What is the first integer?
5.
5, because 5 is included. So 5 is one of them. The other one? No, not just jump. After every integer on this interval, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is 11 included? No, because it is not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So how many integers are there? 6 of them. Is that understandable? Okay. So if you don't have any questions, let me stop this recording. Any questions? Okay.